We all know about the 1997 series King of the Hill. It is still airing on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim block, but I encountered something dark with this series sometime late in 2007. I was at a Goodwill store to buy some N64 games because the store normally had a good stock of retro old games. However, I strolled over to the VHS section in the back, just remembering that I owned a VCR. One of the things I saw was the Titanic VHS tapes, one of them that came in two tapes, but it was in one dust cover. I thought if it would be a good movie for me and my wife, and since as she's never seen it before, to ensure that the tapes would be functional. I took one of the tapes of the individual dust cover, only to see something unexpected. The VHS tape was crooked with a sticker on it, written in Sharpie was King of the Hill, Season 1, Episode 1 never aired. I inspected on the other tape and it said that, and there was a part 2. Now, I assumed that there was part 2, I did not even know why, 23 minute episodes took 2 VHS tapes, or even why they were being sold as Titanic. But I was curious, so I bought them for $2.22. When I got home, nobody was home but me. Therefore, I took my painstaking up process, uncoiling the stuff, coax cables, and the bulky VCR. Soon I turned on the TV to channel 3 and began reviewing, King of the Hill. It had the regular episode of the first episode, King of the Hill, but without the music. It was just silence camera panning over the city of Ireland. It then began normally after that, with Bobby at the baseball game and Hank yelling at him. As we all know, Bobby did not succeed, everything started to go really weird. On the ride home, Hank, Peggy, and Bobby were completely silent, and this went on for about 3 minutes. No one was angry, and no one had an expression actually, just completely blank faces, with only a silence to accompany. Abruptly, as the family pulls into the driveway, and then cut to a scene inside the house. Hank was yelling at Bobby for not giving the 110%. Hank then picked up the baseball and then began at the throwing position. At this point, the video quality was getting really scraggly, and the volume was raised roughly to 10%. Hank would peg the baseball and hit Bobby's nose, as Peggy has been seen in the background crying, and Hank simply told her to shut the hell up. Bobby immediately cupped his nose and ran out of the room, crying while whole away. Now, as Bobby was in the bathroom checking on his nose, his social worker came to the door as Peggy greeted him with the Hank sitting on the sofa, relaxing as if nothing happened. From this point, the colors began to look more like the real episode. The scene with Hank telling the social media worker paid off was a real episode. Suddenly, the scene from the officially aired episode cut to another scene, which is not from the real episode. It was a scene with more ragged video, yet the audio still remained the same. The scene depicted as Peggy was sitting on their phone late at night, most likely contacting child services to tell them about Hank purposely throwing the baseball at Bobby. Hank then suddenly walked through the doorway as he was in a bathrobe and had no glasses and grabbed the phone. "Who the hell is this?" Hank yelled. "This is the Department of Child Services," was the response. Hank's face quickly turned red and slammed the phone back on the wall. He grasped Peggy by the neck. "You're going to get more of those twig boys over for here to put me in prison and take my boy away?" he howled. The scene then cut to Hank talking to Peggy in the back of the neck in the hallway down to the backyard. Hank then took the propane tank off the grill and shoved the valve into Peggy's mouth. As the video went silent for a moment, it showed the propane valve in Peggy's mouth. When the scene then started moving again, Peggy's eyes slowly closed, and then a voice was heard. "Buck Strickland, forgive me for using this." The only problem was when Hank said that, Hank did not even sound like Mike Judge, the creator of the show who voiced Hank. He sounded like an older and deeper voice. The scene then went black after this. I fast forwarded for the rest of the tape just to make sure there was no more content in it. There was none. I just thought to myself, why so much wasted space? And at this point, I was really shooken up. I went to go grab a coffee. When I got back, I popped the second tape, just with the black screen, fast forward to check for any content. Eventually came across some stuff that was starting to scare me. It was a funeral, but there were very few colors. There was only various forms of gray, black, and the colors of people's faces. It did not seem like the real King of the Hill episode. The funeral was for Peggy. Attending to it was all of Hill's neighbors, including some acquaintances such as Hank's father, Cotton, and Joe, and John Rendcorn. Even Hank was there, claiming that Peggy had, taken her own life, as Peggy's coffin was lowered into the hole, and then faded into an overhead view of it being lowered. This part really scared the crap out of me. Somewhat, it had a highly realistic image of Peggy in the coffin. The reason why I said somewhat is because it looked real, but it still appeared to be drawn and not real person. It was still a realistic cartoon. The scene then cut to Bobby, Hank, and Ladybird all sitting on the porch. Bobby had a queasy face, and Hank had one on the propane tank that he used to commit the murder. Bobby then turned to his father. "Why did you do that, Dad?" he asked in a humble voice. "I don't know, son," Hank responded. He almost sounded like he was crying. He then stood up and walked inside, leaving Bobby and Lady Bird, who were still on the porch. Once again, it cut to a very dull scene, but with nothing but black, gray, and the skin colors. It was a scene that literally made me sick to my stomach. It was Hank with a note pinned to him, and just stayed on that for at least 2 minutes or so. Then it cut to the ending credits with the normal outro and the theme music. I was actually kind of laughing on the inside. In fact, the show was playing some sort of regular ending credits after all this stuff happened. I was really more confused and creeped out. I went on for some forums, but found nothing about this episode. However, I came across someone on Yahoo Answers who had a similar occurrence as me. They received a similar tape at the thrift store at John Creek's Country in North Georgia, a place about 20 miles away from where I got mine. I managed to get a hold at AIM with this person, but I had no answers. I was really curious at this point as I drove about 40 miles and went right down to Cartoon Network Turner Broadcasting HQ. I knew that Fox was broadcasting made the show, and I assumed Cartoon Network had every episode on record. As they aired them all beforehand, I had done some research and figured out who was in charge of the broadcasting of King of the Hill. So I found the receptionist in the studio and demanded to talk to him. Apparently, though, I needed a guest pass of some sort. I was completely pissed off at this point, so I drove home and put on my old sheriff's uniform. I was sheriff for Johns Creek about maybe 3 years ago. I went back and then thought of this as unlawful. I used my badge to talk to him. When I got to the office, he was just sitting at his desk on his phone. I walked up to him and threw the tapes at the desk, demanding answers. He dropped the phone immediately and grabbed the tapes. I followed him to another office to another side of the building. There was a small safe in his office. He opened up and put the tapes inside and locked it. Then he told me to leave. I did not want to act like the sheriff anymore because I did not want to get in trouble with the law, so I left. I got home and flipped on the TV. Adult Swim was on, and I was relieved to see a real episode of King of the Hill. To this day, there was only 2 copies of this episode on 4 tapes that I could find anything about the internet on. If one of them, I assume, is still locked up in Cartoon Network Studios, you may possibly come across one of them at thrift shops or throughout the Southeast. And that, my little pretties, was King of the Hill Lost Episode. A King of the Hill Lost Episode creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? Well, I'm gonna be saying right now that I'm actually impressed with this creepypasta. Now, I did remember hearing a few of these I think I narrated a few King of the Hill pastas. I remember one of them being from who was it? Oh yeah, Matthew Bumford. So I decided to go ahead and narrate this story. Now, I'm gonna be honest when I say this. I really found this one to be quite a good pasta. Now, I have heard other narrations of this story. Like, I remember who was it? Oh yeah, I do remember Dave narrated this story back in 2013. I think I discovered this when Andal narrated it. I didn't watch Dave's narration of it when I first heard of this. So I ended up, I ended up deciding to check out Andal's narration of the story. So shortly after I did, I took a look at Dave's narration. And I have to say, it's a pretty good pasta, actually. You know, despite the cliches such as the VHS cliche, the, hyperrealistic, images and all that, but it's still a pretty good, pasta for what this one is. Like, I remember I took a look at this pasta at least a few years ago. So I didn't narrate this back in 2019. I just decided to take like a look at it, and I actually found this one to be quite enjoyable. It's a pretty good creepypasta, and it's really well made. Like, I definitely would have to say it's pretty messed up, to be honest. Like, if you've watched this, I saw how, messed up this one was. So, I really have to say it was definitely an interesting story. Like, I mean, it's not terrible or anything like that. It's a pretty good pasta. I really have to say when I first read this one, I actually thought this one was a pretty neat pasta. It's a pretty good pasta. It was definitely well made. There's definitely a lot of time and effort into the story. Like, I like the concept of how it all went out. I like the good grammar, the sentence structuring. Everything about this was flat out amazing. Yeah, despite the fact that there were not just VHS cliche, but there was a few other cliches in the story. So that was kind of why I was hesitant to narrate this one. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and, take a look at this story. And the story was not bad, I would have to admit. The story was not a bad story. It actually provided pretty good concept for what this episode really was. Now, I actually decided, no, to narrate this, and finally I have the time to narrate this one. This one actually had a pretty good, storyline with this, and I'm really impressed with how this one went out. It actually had a really good concept for what this one is. I really do like how, the story was beautifully well detailed. Despite the cliches that were in this, the story actually provided pretty good detail. And this is actually one of the fewer creepypastas that actually put effort into it. So this is an older one. I believe this one might have came out maybe in 2012 or something. And that was back before creepypastas became, more cliche and all that. So I'm definitely say that now how to do this. So it's actually a pretty good pasta, and I really recommend you guys check this one out. Now, the only flaws I would have to say that were not major flaws, but one of the major ones I would have to say was finding the VHS tape at a Goodwill. I know other pastas have actually done that, so that's one of the massive flaws in this story. Another one I would have to say was the hyperrealistic image of Peggy. Like, I mean, it wasn't really a major one per se, but the major one is the VHS tape. Like, I know, I'm gonna say this again. So many other pastas have sat there and did this. I mean, this pasta was not terrible. I'm not gonna lie. It was not a terrible story or anything. I found this one to be enjoyable. Well, despite the cliches and that were in this story, I still found this one to be a pretty enjoyable story. So, I actually found this one to be good. It's still a really fun story, and I recommend you guys take a look at this story if you haven't. It is on, Spin Pasta, and yeah, that's where I got the story from, is Spin Pasta. So I'm going to say, hey, this right here, right now, that if you guys like this story, yeah. I don't know who the original author is, so I can't seem to find out who the original author is, so I'm gonna leave this as anonymous for now. If I ever find out who the original author of the story is, I'll be sure to give him or her proper credit. But other than that, I'm just gonna wait on that until I hear anything else. So, my final thoughts on this story: pretty good. Not gonna lie, it's a classic creepypasta. Despite the cliches that are in the story, I still found this one to be enjoyable. So, anyways, with that being the case, that being said, what did you guys think about this? Oh yeah, Final Rain. This is simply my own personal opinion. You happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas. Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. I burped. And this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a 10 out of 10. Well, not 10 out of 10. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. Only giving it a 9 because the massive flaw in this story was finding the VHS tape at Goodwill, because other stories have done that. And I know that this pasta was like written back before cliches became, overused. And also I am going to sit here and say this as well, that another thing that is not really a major flaw, but I think I should make a mention, was the hyperrealistic image of, well, hyperrealistic mention of hyperrealism of Peggy. Like, I mean, it's not terrible or anything, but I would suggest, that the story was not that great. Well, at that point, like, I mean, the story was not terrible or anything. I really still found this one to be enjoyable. But with all due sincerity, this story just didn't, work out well. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. But, anyways, what did you guys think about? Oh, yeah, that's why it's given a 9 out of 10. But, anyways, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me now what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because I make brand new videos every single day. And don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro, because I'm out.